I thought I'd do a really quick video. The previous video, one thing I didn't do, and that was talk about this hat. I think I did it I mentioned that I did several takes of the video, and in one of them I talked about this hat. My sister bought me this hat when she was in Florida. I don't think I mentioned this in the previous video, so if I do it again, oh well. So I think I mentioned that they're doing a television show about my brother's murder. He was murdered in 2008. They videoed me, or they interviewed me here in Michigan because of my cancer. Everyone else, which I'm not sure who else, I know it was at least my sister and my niece, they flew to Florida because most of the people they were going to interview live in Florida, like the police and the prosecutors and friends of my brother, neighbors live in Florida anyway. So I would have gotten a free trip to Florida had I not been sick. So had not been for the cancer and chemotherapy treatment. So they interviewed me here over at the Holiday Inn in one of their little conference rooms. Took about 3.5 hours. So when my sister went to Florida for her interview, she went to Ron John because she knows I like Ron John surf shop hats and Cocoa Beach type stuff. So she bought me a Ron John surf shop hat, and it has an American flag. And if you can see, the stripes are made out of surfboards, which is really cool. So I really like this hat. So this is the second time I've worn this one. This is a quick video. The previous video I mentioned about how I hadn't been reading as much, and I actually have felt good the day after my treatment, this 5th treatment, and today, probably because I'm on high dosage of prednisone every day for about 5 days. So I'll feel good for a few days, and then I hit the downward slide by the weekend, probably. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So I just thought I'd share with you things that I've been reading or have read over the course of my treatment. My wife bought me this book. And this is probably going to be backwards on there because I have the phone forward facing. So sorry, it's called Tethered to the Cross. And this is about the life and preaching of Charles Spurgeon. Really good book. And it's not necessarily about his life or his life story. It's a lot more about his preaching and his teaching. And then some controversies that he got involved with, like the downgrade controversy and things like that. So this was a really good book. It's actually, I think it was developed out of a doctoral dissertation from a guy. So, and Thomas Brimmeyer, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. That was a very good book. And then I know I mentioned this one. I read The Small Cup of Light. I read this one right when I found out that I had cancer, and I've returned to it a few times because it's sort of one of those types of book that you can return to and read different excerpts out of it that are encouragement to you. And this is about a guy who had a debilitating illness and how God taught him not to be quite so independent, but more dependent on the Lord. Very good book. And I know some folks have read this that have bought it since I mentioned it. And we bought a couple copies for different people. I read a book called Ordinary by Michael Horton. And this is really sort of response to David Platt's book. Now I can't remember. Was it Reckless? No. I forget what it was. Radical. So this is sort of a response to that about how God uses ordinary, common things like going to church and raising a family and things like that. Common graces that can help us grow as a Christian. And I really liked this book. This helped me a lot. Like that one. This is a book I started, but I put it aside for right now. This is not really a Christian book. It's really a historical book. And it's called No Man Knows My History. It's the life of Joseph Smith. This was actually recommended to me by a pastor, actually Mark and Sam's pastor out in Utah, who was an ex-Mormon who became a Christian. So this is a good book too. So I started it, but I'm going to set it aside for a little while to get through some other things. So I'm going to come back to that one. That's one I'm going to read. I'll show that one maybe. Well, I'll show that now. This is called Rediscovering the Holy Spirit by Michael Horton. And the reason I bought that book is because of another book that I'm almost done. And that is Simply Trinity, which is also by Michael Barrett. And I think Michael Barrett was the one that recommended the one by Michael Horton. So that's what got me hooked up to this one. So I'm almost halfway through this one. I haven't read this one for a little bit. I'm using this commentary on 1 John. I mentioned I started preaching on 1 John, so I've started reading this. I read this. I actually started this one before I got COVID, and then I finished it during, not COVID, before I got cancer. I don't have COVID. I'm praying I don't. And this is by Delitzsch, which if you ever heard of Keel and Delitzsch, a couple German guys who wrote a set of Old Testament commentaries. I have that set, use it sometimes. Big set, takes like a couple shelves up. And this is called The Old Testament History of Redemption. And I really like that one. This was good. I'm only about quarter way through this one. This is just a book for fun. It's called Sword Point by Harold Coyle, which is a guy who was a military guy who writes books about like military. It's a fiction book about a war between Russia, Iran, and the United States, and it's sort of like Russia's going in there to attack Iran. They're sort of fighting over the oil over there. So it's a pretty good book if you like military strategy type books, which I kind of like those. And then something I've been reading for a long time, and I was really stuck with it for a long time, and then I set it aside for a while, but that is the works of John Owen. He's a Puritan writer, very devotional in his writing, but yet very doctrinal too. And I decided to read through the works of John Owen by reading 30 minutes a day. Well, I finished volume 5. You can see I'm very early into my bookmarks right up here into volume 6. So volume 5 is a small volume, and volume 5 is 450 pages long. And I underline. So I read about 7 pages in 30 minutes, and John Owen is really difficult to read. Sometimes I wonder why I took on that project, but I do get a lot out of it. Every once in a while, you'll see me throw quotes from John Owen, because I gleaned some quotes off of him. But I'm reading, this next one is called Temptation and Sin, and it's volume 6. Well, there's 16 volumes, so I have a ways to go. I think I figured out, just averaging it, I think I have about 7 more years. I think something like that, some crazy number. And this isn't even counting, which I don't own. I think it's his 7-volume set on the book of Hebrews, which I don't own that. And I don't have any plans right now on buying it because I have enough in front of me here. So those are some things I'm reading, and I plan on reading today. I'm going to go ahead and I feel up to it today. I think I feel pretty good about doing some reading today. So I'll sit here and read for maybe an hour and a half. And then maybe I'll take a nap again, because I woke up really early this morning. I woke up at about 3. I stayed up till about 5:30, fell back to sleep, and then woke up again at 6:30. So it's just the chemo, probably prednisone, a lot of it. So just quick sharing what I'm reading. I mentioned, I think I'll do another video this week talking about Samaritan Ministries. Just sort of like add-on videos maybe about Samaritan Ministries and how my medical bills are being paid. Because when I go to the doctor or the hospital, not so much my doctor, because he's familiar with this kind of stuff, but when I go to the hospitals and the labs and places like that, they look at me like I'm crazy when I walk in and I say I'm self-pay, especially what it costs to do the chemo treatments. Well, I'm not really self-pay. I'm a part of a Christian medical sharing ministry. If you used to ever listen to Rush Limbaugh, he used to advertise for MediShare, very similar to MediShare. It's called Samaritan Ministries, not related to Samaritan's Purse, which is a ministry that's run by Billy Graham's son, Franklin Graham. It's not related, it's totally different. And it's basically Christians that are in sort of a healthcare group who pay, through their premiums, they pay each other's healthcare needs. So I get a lot of checks in the mail. It can be sort of confusing. I finally got it down to a system. It was a little confusing at first to keep track of it all, but they do a really good job, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I don't want to go on into that right now. I'll do a video on that, maybe explaining some of that. So anyway, that is it for now, and just wanted to share some what I'm reading.